the Chiefs, Craigs, big players out for the Chiefs. Tyrone Thompson's a big one for me, a very good reserve hooker for them. Hamilton Burr was always serviceable. Tom Florence, Josh Ioane, very sad to see him go. Obviously, his potential was sky high, but just never got himself it seems like never got himself in the right frame of mind. And then Peniasi Mali, who is another player that I think showed up in their trials anyway. So he's obviously in the wider squad, but not actually contracted this year.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I was surprised at his name here, but yep, he's he didn't really get much game time anyway, so he's just obviously been there or thereabouts. But yep, who knows? Big players in.
Yeah, Brody McAllister come down from the Crusaders to add even more depth to their ridiculous hooking stocks. I don't know why McAllister would do that, to be honest. Fidi Sarr from Taranaki. Jerome Brown from the Brums has come across as an open side specialist. A player you're even more excited about, Malachi Rampling Alec, the under-20s New Zealand back rower, Waikato, now 20 years old. He's meant to be an absolute wrecking ball and one that we might get to see this year. Then Leroy Carter come across from the New Zealand Sevens. I think he was a nominee for the Player of the Year last year in the Sevens, so obviously an absolute weapon there. And then Josh Jacom, a player that obviously people are becoming familiar with as he is anyway, so another good young fly half for them.
Yeah, I actually just heard, I was listening to the Green and Gold podcast, and one of the Kiwi blokes on that, they were doing the 2025 preview like we're doing, and he was saying Josh Jacome, he thinks, is one of the potentially best fly halves in New Zealand, like up and coming. So they're really hoping that he gets a little more game time. So I'm sure he played a game last year.
I think he did.
But, anyway, good to know.
Yep. And then, of course, that takes us to our lineups, Craigs, if you want to get us started. Oh, Craigs, you're muted there. Sorry, buddy.
I don't know if that was me somehow, or did you... Anyway, all good. I was saying, great photo here from of Eteni Nanai Saturo from Nelson. That's a good one. And I love that Chiefs retro jersey, actually. I'm surprised you don't own that one already, Harry.
Oh, mate. I couldn't get my hands on any of them. I'm spewing. Hopefully that's theirs this year, though. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. In terms of lineups, looks very familiar. The three of us have the exact same starting front row. It's pretty locked on at this point. We've got Aiden Ross, Samasoni Takiaho, and George Dyer. And then on the bench, we have Brody McAllister, Nelson and I have gone Brody McAllister, and Harry has backed the old horse, Bradley Slater, who has been around for a long time at the Chiefs environment.
Yeah.
Why do you think he's going to get he's going to keep getting the nod over Brody?
I just think he's really good. I don't know what Brody McAllister has shown for him to usurp Bradley Slater, to be honest. I like Slater.
He's been a Cody Taylor understudy for the last how many years, and has already scored about a zillion tries for the Crusaders, and just knows what he's doing, mate. I think he's come across to the Chiefs. I don't know. Takiaho's got to have a few All Black rest weeks, so he's come across to get some games. But I think that'll be a really good contest there between the two of them. But I don't know. For mine, I'll see Brady McAllister on my bench.
Yeah.
We've all gone Ollie Norris and Ruben O'Neill. They seem to be the two backups. And I wonder if it was last year. Was it last year the Chiefs, like the Crusaders, went down to the depths of injuries in props? Or maybe that was the year before for them. I'm not sure.
I feel like that was the year before. I don't remember it being a problem for them last year.
Yeah, fair enough. And then locks again. The Chiefs are relatively settled, I'd say. So we've got Tupou Vaa'i, All Black Tupou Vaa'i, and All Black Josh Lord as well, who you'd have to think would be the favourites. And on the bench, we've all opted for Natoya Akoi. And then into the back rows, have we all gone? So we've got a few differences in the back rows. We've all opted for Samipeni Finau, All Black, and the enforcer, Samipeni Finau in that 6 jersey. Nelson has opted for Luke Jacobson in the 7 jersey. Sorry, no, he's opted for Jerome Brown in the 7 jersey. I just can't read, obviously. I've opted for Luke Jacobson in the 7 jersey, and Harry's opted for Luke Jacobson in the 7 jersey.
Yeah, mine's going to get stitched up here, though, because, again, I wrote my lineup before we got the Satiti news, so I've got Wallace Satiti at 8, but he's obviously not going to be there until, at the latest, the back end of the year, so I would prefer Rampling Alec to get a chance at 8, to be honest. That's how I hope it goes.
Indeed, and that's for that reason. I have Rampling Alec at 8. Obviously, we'd all have Wallace if he was fit and not injured. But of course, the other option there is Simon Parker. Unless is he?
Oh, that's actually what I had. Nelson stitched me up massively here. I definitely had Simon Parker bracketed instead of Wallace Atiti.
So do you think Simon Parker he's straight in over Rampling Alec?
Yep. Finau, Jacobson, Parker for me. Sorry.
Yep, cool. And then so Nelson's opted for Finau, Jerome Brown at 7, and Luke Jacobson at 8.
Bloke's got no idea.
And then on the bench, so he's on the bench. He's put Rampling Alec. On the bench, I put Jerome Brown, and so is Harry. But you've just corrected that with your. If you start Simon Parker, who are you putting on the bench? Sorry, Jerome Brown or Rampling Alec?
I've gone Jerome Brown. I don't know. Again, obviously, I would prefer Rampling Alec, but my gut says that they go experience, and then Rampling Alec gets a few games.
Yeah, fair enough. And Jerome Brown's really the one dedicated fetcher. Luke Jacobson, I know, can play a bit of everything, but if they've got one fetcher, one jackler, I think Jerome Brown could be in with a good spot on the bench if they need to bring that injection in for that part of the game.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, the backs.
Cortez Radimer and Damien McKenzie as our 9 and 10. I think we're all pretty consistent there. Xavier Rowe on the bench covering halfback has been excellent as well. And then you and I have gone Caleb Trask to have a reserve 10. Nelson skipped that and gone straight to his reserve centre and Rameka Poihipi. I guess, which ruins my flow here. But I've got Poihipi on my bench as well. You've gone Rona as your centre cover instead. Who again, I guess he can play centre and wing as well. He's a little bit more versatile. In the centres starting, I think we've all gone Quinn Tupaia, Anton Linnett-Brown. So I think that's probably not as clear cut as what the three of us have made it. I think definitely Poihipi is pushing Quinn Tupaia a little bit there. He seemed to even be favoured last year. But yeah, I think we are all just such massive fans of Tupaia.
Yeah, I think that's because Quinn was coming back from that heavy knee injury, right? So he had to, and Poihipi, he stepped up in that 12 jersey, and he's also a big leader in that team. So we still all thought at the time that Quinn Tupaia comes back and just walks straight back into that 12 jersey, but that wasn't how it went. So for the reason I've gone with Rona on the bench, so I think Tupaia will be starting, but the reason I've gone with Rona instead of Poihipi is because I think before they if they brought on Poihipi, Tupaia could push out to the wing. Whereas now I think he's lost that little bit of pace after the knee injury that I don't think we will see them play Tupaia at wing. I don't think we'll ever see him push out. I think he'll be centres or not on the field. Whereas Daniel Rona can play in the centres or the wing. So it's a bit more versatile, that cover. That's kind of why I've opted for it.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me. I think I picked Poihipi on my bench just purely because I thought he was the closest to getting a start, really.
Yeah, for sure.
Obviously, the makeup for every game is going to be a little bit different to how every team uses their bench, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Outside backs, all of us got Ateni and Nanai Saturo on their left wing, Amoni Narawa on our right wing, and Shawnee Stevenson, shooter, in at fullback. Of course, shooter will not be starting the year for them. I think he's over playing in Japan on a short-term contract as well. Back in round 4 for shooter Stevenson, so just will miss the start and the preseason. And then I should say as well, Nelson's put an outside back as in Leroy Carter on his bench as well to jump up, which, I mean, phenomenal talent as well.
And to that point, so 2 questions from that is if Sean Stevenson shooter's away for the first 4 rounds of the season, who wears that 15 jersey?
Yeah. I think...
Does Leroy Carter slot in there?
I don't know if you slot him in at fullback. I think it's more likely that Ateni Nano Saturo goes to fullback and then they bring someone in the wing. And it might be Leroy Carter, but also I think Daniel Rona is probably the favourite to start the first few rounds for me.
Also, Narawa's played a whole lot of fullback in the NPC as well. He hasn't for the Chiefs. Has Nano Saturo actually played fullback for the Chiefs?
I thought that he was the one that was preferred over Narawa, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, it could be. So just for the listeners, it'll be really interesting to see how that starts. But you'd feel real safe picking Nano Saturo or Narawa because they're definitely playing at the start, which is great.
100%.
Yeah, cool.
All right. The injuries, the only one is the massive one we've already touched on, Wallace Atiti. He had a meniscus operation, I think, in his knee. 17th of January. He was meant to have it in December, and then I think the surgeons that they liked must have gone on holidays, literally. So it got delayed by a big block of time by a couple of months or something. So They said that he could miss the whole year, but they haven't locked that in, which means it must be pretty severe. Like generally, they don't take that long to come back from. I would have thought like 3 or 4 months is a pretty conservative timeline, which puts him like April, May, somewhere around there. So I still think he's a good chance to play the last kind of 4 to 6 games or something.
So you'll be keeping an eye out. You'll be trawling, as you already do for the Casualty Award. You'll be trawling the newspapers.
Well, Wallace the TT, Matt, I'll be on their socials, just like watching if he's running around in the team.
That's true. Cool. So no other injuries. Into stocks are rising. Simon Parker, who you were stitched up with. Particularly with Satiti gone, he's kind of the next most senior player there. He can play 7 or 8, but predominantly 8. Do you think?
I think he plays like 6 and 8. He can play anywhere, but he seems to play most of his minutes at 6 and 8. But yeah, I think they're most likely going to put Jacobson to 7 if that's the case, if he comes onto the field. And then therefore, I think he'll be 8.
Fair enough. I'm going to chuck Rampling Alec in there, and stocks are rising as well. I just think with Wallace out, he's going to get more shots. He's going to get more shots. And as I said in the new Young Hot Shit podcast, I'm happy to make myself sound like an idiot, but last year I was more excited about Rampling Alec than Wallace Satiti coming in and getting some games. And did Wallace Satiti have an absolute rip snort of a year? So I'm still excited for Rampling Alec, and we're going to get to see him, so that'll be good.
Sure.
Stocks are falling. Shooter Stevenson. Are we just saying because he's coming back in round 4 and because they've kind of got a little bit more depth?
Yeah, that's basically it. Like, I don't think there's a lot of stocks falling here. But if you're looking for a reason, like Quinn Tupaia is the perfect example of why I think Shooter could suffer a little bit. Like he came back from an injury, and because the players in his position were doing so well, he just never really got the opportunity to get that consistent start. So it's obviously the coaches are very big on you pick the guy in form. So if Shooter comes back and there's 3 outside backs that are playing very well, it's going to be harder to get back into this side, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we might see him start on the bench round 4 and then kind of, who knows? I mean, who knows with injuries? But yeah, absolutely, that's one to watch. And then Smokies, Leroy Carter. Yep, as we've touched on, absolute weapon and some absolute genuine speed. Not that they're lacking that with Nana Saturo and Narawa, but he's someone really exciting to watch. And who knows, we could just see him, slot into the back 3 in the first couple of weeks and run away with that jersey and exactly be one of those threats for Sean Stevenson coming back. So
absolutely
excited about him. All right, where do we think that they're going to end? I think you've already touched on this, Harry. You've said you think the Chiefs are going to be up there in the top 3 thereabouts. Where do you have them landing?
It's so funny. Like I always rate them so high, and I look at their team and they're pretty similar to the Blues in that they have got a few positions they're not quite as strong, and few that they just have insane depth. But I feel like it's their time. I feel like, I'm wearing a Chiefs jersey for a reason here, like I'm taking them. If a Kiwi side's going to win it, I'm backing the Chiefs, and I think that they'll be minor premiers.
All right, well, so with that in mind, we can all but lock in that Harry's first draft pick, if he gets the choice, is Damien McKenzie. That's absolutely locked in.
I think we knew that a while ago. A long while ago.
He's only won you a few championships. That's fine. All right, cool. So what are we saying? Are we saying that
I'm going first.
Minor premiers. Sorry, you said minor premiers.
I'm going minor premiers and champions.
Cool. I don't know. I'm not sold on definitely first. I'm going to say first or second. I think they'll be in the top 2 teams. That's where they'll finish. So I don't know who I have
with the Blues or with the Brums or who
with another Kiwi team. And so it's with the Blues. I think it's Blues or Chiefs top 2. So I think that's where I was saying. I said I wasn't comfortable putting the Blues at 2, but I was being swayed by you. But I think that's interchangeable.